it could go positive, at the same time it could go negative.
How then can farmers, ease the pressure?
Yes, so things are changing. With this prediction, for me, it helps to know that it starts. I'm always big on seeds. I can almost not talk without talking about seeds, because one of the things that we need to do now is to look at seeds that do well either in drought condition or in excess rain conditions. So the rural farmers, that's why they plant like 3-4 crops at different intervals together.
Okay.
So if the rains affect one, the other will survive.
Yeah.
So that may not be the best practice. That may not be the best to get the yield. However, for sustainability, which is their priority, not commercialization, that secures that. So this forecast saying that, and let me say this, because this program was set up to give accurate and adequate information for new entrants and existing farmers and maybe the financial institutions listening, for them to know, to bridge the gap of information between what ought to and what is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now we had some rainfall in different pockets across Southwest, and we would have also like that in the North, which is predicted. So if you have irrigation, it's time for you to hit the market running, because instead of you, the people who rush to farm in January to plant, and the people who will be planting from next week, the people planting next week would make more money than the people who started 3 weeks ago, thinking it was dry season. So because it's just a space, when your products are coming out like in April, it's just a function of 3 weeks. If you miss the 3 weeks, you miss the money. So you can have extra labor, fertile labor from January, saying, it's dry season. The moment you rush to farm early, you'll have intense harmattan. That means the weather will be a lot drier. A lot drier, so you use more water. The farm labor will not really be in the best form to work. Then outside that, when you hit February, some intense heat for about 10 days will show up. So you spend a lot of money as you are irrigating. The harmattan is drying it off.
Yeah.
In February, the heat, as you are irrigating, it will dry it off. So basically, February is the time to hit the market, to hit the farms, if you want to go into production. And it comes out in April, you smile into the bank. I just gave one of the biggest secrets in crop production.
Wow.
And I've leveraged it across the world. And the thing that works is you find the rural farmers now on the farms doing the work now. And so they don't make a lot of loss like the educated people who go commercially into it, because they're looking at the weather. They're trying to play it safe.
When you talk about weather, I also think about flooding, because it happens over the past few years. We've had flash floods due to, consistent rainfall that sometimes last over a week. How can we prevent this from being a constant reoccurrence?
Now, let me, because I like to pull out, I have learned, my career has been built around working with rural farmers.
Okay.
And with discounting their knowledge and experience, thinking we are educated and exposed. So the benefit of those rural farmers, you won't find anybody having one farm in one location. They will have 3 different or 4 different locations planting different things. So they will have one with the fertile soil, some the sandy soil. So if you have too much rain, everything will go bad at the same time.
Yeah.
The soils that are sandy will drain off the water better. While the very rich soils, maybe the clay, loamy, will suck it up and it will affect the crop. So they never totally lose. But for the educated people, you do want big commercial farm. It has its advantage also.
Hmm.
But when you are having climate change, it helps to adopt a bit from the rural farmers and adapt it to what you're doing so that you can smile to the bank.
Now, this is the second time you would be mentioning climate change.
Yes.
And I'm so interested in it because I think a lot of real farmers or other farmers are not as sensitive as they should be as regards climate change. So how does global warming and climate change affect the pattern of rainfall?
Yeah, so basically it changes things. Like years back, places like Shaki, which I have quite a lot of
Where's
projects.
Shaki?
Shaki is on your state. It
Okay.
borders Kwara.
Okay.
And so it has some, the climate there is a bit northern. And also it's a mix of south and north. And so there were some things that we could not grow adequately before. But because of the reduced rainfall, so you could plant some crops and the rains will not disturb it again in Shaki. Because in the north you will have like four months rain, ideally 4 months rain. So
Through the entire calendar year.
Yeah, you have effective 4 months rain, some 5 months rain. But now that the rainfall in the southwest, in those Shaki, Kwara axis, you don't have the intensity of that rainfall again. So what happens is that there are a lot of things you can play around with now. That Shaki is in your state. You can't do those things in Ibadan because the rainfall also is still heavy. There's a dam in one of the locations there about 4 or 5 years ago. The dam receded. It dried up by 20 meters. I've been operating there now for I think about 11 or 12 years. That year the dam dried up 20 meters. But unfortunately, the people in the urban center really don't know this.
Yeah.
So the effect of climate change is biting, and there's looking at going through the NIMET prediction now, saying that there will be false rain early February.
Yeah.
So the people who don't have experience will rush to the farm thinking that the rain has started.
Okay.
But the real farmers, the rural people, don't do it. They wait till around March / April. In fact, most of them around April 10, that's when you see commercial activities going on.
Wow.
Because they know the rainfall is steady. And this prediction also says that some places would have some dry spells for 10 to 21 days.
Yeah.
If you are not careful, whoever goes to produce and has 10 to 21 days, the crops finished. So take for instance like tomatoes. I like tomatoes a lot, and I've done it for a long time. So if your tomatoes is to fruit around that period where you have that dry spell, calcium in the soil, the crop, the tomato does not take calcium from the soil without water. It needs a lot of water, moisture.
Yeah.
So there's what is called blossom end rot, where you have a scar, a black scar by the side of the tomatoes. Once you have it, it will wipe out about 70% of you are not harvesting anything.
Wow.
So, and the challenge is many can't interpret this to what is likely to happen of losing 70 to 80% of your harvest. That means you've not done anything on the project.
Yeah.
And so they're saying Shaki is saying Abeokuta, Kasina are expected to have below normal rainfall. So if you're planning to invest in these areas, you may need to engage to get irrigation. Yeah, very crucial. So I would employ you as you're listening to go and download this information. You can reach out to us, and we're actually working on interpreting it in different zones: north, south, east, west. Especially for the new entrants. Agric is looking very appealing now.
Oh yes, it is. Oh yes, it is. I was also going to ask, do you think the average farmer or new entrants into the agric world are conscious of all of these really important factors like rainfall, climate change? Do you think they're conscious?
Yeah, they're not. Okay, I don't know how to say it in English. I'll try.
Okay.
You have a lot of blind leading the blind.
Oh.
So you ask, okay, when did you get your training from? I read online, and it's good to read online.
Yeah.
However, you're not attached to a coach. You've not done any proper training.
Practical.
Everybody, a lot of people just feel, I know it. But there's this general saying that you can have new cloth more than the elder, but you cannot have rags as much as the elder. It is the rags that helps the elder to say, predict adequately. So you find many people, they are 2 years, 3 years, now they are consultants and they are online, doing a lot of things. It's good to be involved in activity, but there's always a 3-year cycle that shows up in agri. I really can't put my hand to it, but around here and with a lot of people, every 3 years there's likely, I use the word likely, to be a challenge that will show up. So if you overscale every 3 years, you're likely to have either it's a government policy. Yeah, many people don't believe it. Well, when you get involved and you see these things,
you then believe.
Then you then believe, But the thing is that, and part of it also is that we don't have many people in the value chain. Everybody's trying to do the same thing, copying what others are doing, instead of bridging a gap. And so when we have that chain complete, these cycles can continue. But when we don't have the chains complete, we would keep having these cycles of repeated cycles, so to speak.
Let us go on a quick break. When we come back, we would open up the phone lines for those who have questions and contributions as regards, rainfall and agriculture, the implications in Nigeria. Just stay with us. This is Lagos Talks 91.3, and you're listening to Agribusiness.